The crimson sun dipped below the jagged horizon of Xylophia 7, casting long shadows across the crystalline cityscape. The air shimmered with an otherworldly glow as Captain Elias Thorne navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Royal Hive complex. His boots clicked against the translucent floor panels that pulsed faintly with each step, a reminder of the alien technology surrounding him. For 3 cycles of their Crimson Moon, he had been stationed here as Earth's diplomatic liaison, learning to decipher the subtle cues and complex rituals of Xylophian society. The Queen's chambers loomed ahead, guarded by 2 towering zenith warriors whose bioluminescent markings shifted with each breath. Their presence was both intimidating and mesmerizing, their segmented bodies gleaming like polished obsidian under the pulsing light. As Thorne approached, he felt the familiar weight of his diplomatic insignia on his chest, a symbol of hope for peaceful relations between humanity and this ancient civilization. Throughout his tenure, Thorne had observed how everything in Xylophian culture revolved around their matriarchal hierarchy. The Queen wasn't merely a ruler, she was the embodiment of their collective consciousness, her every decision rippling through their hive mind like waves across a cosmic ocean. Her smile, they said, could alter the course of entire solar systems. Yet despite months of careful study, Thorne still found himself struggling to read her expressions, each one a carefully crafted masterpiece of subtle muscle movements and pheromonal signals. Today's meeting carried extra weight. The fate of Earth's colonization efforts hung in the balance, dependent on securing a formal alliance with the Xylophians. As he passed beneath the archway into the Queen's chamber, Thorne felt the temperature shift, not just physical but emotional. The walls themselves seemed alive, responding to his presence with gentle pulses of light that matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. Inside, the Queen's throne room stretched upward like an inverted crystal mountain, its facets catching and scattering light in impossible patterns. At the center sat Her Majesty, her body adorned with living jewels that responded to her emotions. Thorne had learned to recognize certain patterns, the deep violet that signaled contemplation, the electric blue of amusement, the dangerous green flash of anger. But today, something felt different. The atmosphere crackled with an energy he couldn't quite place, as if the very fabric of reality bent slightly out of shape around her. He stepped forward, his practiced smile masking the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. The Queen's eyes, those multifaceted orbs that could see beyond mere physical appearances, fixed upon him with an intensity that made his carefully rehearsed speech falter before he even began. This meeting wouldn't be like the others. He could feel it in the way the air seemed to thicken, in the unusual pattern of lights dancing across the walls. Something monumental was about to unfold, though whether it would lead to triumph or disaster remained hidden behind the Queen's enigmatic expression. As Thorne approached the Queen's dais, his training failed him completely. Instead of delivering the carefully crafted diplomatic address he'd prepared, words tumbled from his lips unbidden, driven by some primal force he couldn't contain. "Your Majesty," he heard himself saying, his voice resonating with an unexpected clarity. "In all my years among the stars, I've never encountered such profound beauty, such magnificent intelligence. Your people have shown me wonders beyond comprehension, but it is you who has truly captured my soul." The Queen's crystalline adornments shifted in color, cycling through shades Thorne had never seen before. Her multiple-faceted eyes widened fractionally, and the delicate tendrils framing her face quivered in what he had come to recognize as acute interest. The guards at the chamber's perimeter froze mid-movement, their bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically as if struggling to process what they were witnessing. "I know this may seem unprecedented," Thorne continued, his heart pounding against his ribs with enough force to threaten his composure. "But I find myself compelled to ask, would you consider forming a bond with me that transcends diplomatic protocol? One that could unite our species not just through treaties and trade, but through something far more profound?" The silence that followed stretched impossibly long, broken only by the soft humming of the chamber's organic architecture. Thorne's mind raced back to his studies. Had he misinterpreted the cultural significance of bonding gestures? Was this proposal considered an insult rather than an honor? His palms grew slick with sweat inside his gloves as he waited for the Queen's response. Then came the moment that would haunt his dreams forever. The Queen's mandibles parted slightly, and her facial tendrils arranged themselves in a configuration that could only be described as a smile, a genuine, unmistakable expression of amusement. Not the polite acknowledgement of a subordinate's gesture, but the warm, knowing smile of someone who finds themselves pleasantly surprised by an unexpected turn of events. "Wait." The queen's voice resonated through the chamber, layered with harmonics that made Thorn's bones vibrate. Was that a proposal? She leaned forward ever so slightly, her crystalline ornaments sparkling with renewed brilliance. You, a human male, proposing to me, the Queen of Xylophia, 7? The question hung in the air like charged particles before a lightning strike, each word carrying layers of meaning that Thorn struggled to fully comprehend. Her laughter, if it could be called that, filled the chamber with musical tones that defied human categorization. The Zenith Guards shifted uncomfortably, their bioluminescence fluctuating wildly as they processed this unprecedented situation. Thorn stood frozen, caught between mortification and wonder as the queen regarded him with an expression that seemed to contain galaxies of thought. "This is most irregular," she continued, her voice carrying traces of what might have been delight. "Among my people, such proposals are traditionally initiated during the celestial convergence, under the light of 13 moons. Yet here you stand, declaring your intentions in the dying glow of our single sun." She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his carefully constructed diplomatic facade crumble completely. Thorn found himself laughing nervously, the sound echoing strangely against the chamber's organic walls. "I apologize if I've overstepped any protocols, Your Majesty. It seems my human impulsiveness got the better of me." The queen's smile widened, revealing delicate structures within her mouth that refracted light in prismatic patterns. "You humans," she mused, her voice softening to a tone that sent shivers down Thorn's spine. "So quick to act on emotion, yet capable of such profound consideration when it truly matters. Tell me, Captain Thorn, do you understand the implications of what you've just done? In our society, a rejected proposal carries consequences far beyond simple embarrassment." The chamber's lighting shifted subtly, responding to the queen's rising curiosity. Her tendrils danced in intricate patterns as she processed this unprecedented situation. "You must realize," she continued, leaning forward slightly, "that among my kind, bonding is not merely a personal matter. It affects the entire hive structure, potentially altering the course of our civilization. And yet—" Her voice trailed off, leaving Thorn suspended in a moment charged with possibilities. The queen rose from her crystalline throne, her movement fluid and graceful despite her alien form. Each step she took toward Thorn caused the chamber's organic architecture to respond with increased luminosity, as if the very building shared her heightened state of awareness. "Captain Thorn," she said, her multi-tonal voice weaving through the space between them, "your proposal raises questions we've never before considered. How would such a union work between our species? What precedent would it set for interspecies relations?" Thorn watched as her faceted eyes scanned him with an intensity that seemed to penetrate beyond his physical form. The queen's tendrils twitched in rapid succession, a sign he'd learned indicated deep contemplation. "Our hive mind functions through perfect harmony and shared consciousness," she explained, circling him slowly. "Your human individuality presents challenges, yet perhaps opportunities as well." The chamber's atmosphere thickened as the queen paused her pacing, standing close enough for Thorn to see his reflection distorted in her crystalline adornments. "Tell me," she asked, tilting her head in that peculiar manner that always made Thorn feel simultaneously scrutinized and understood, "what makes you believe you could bridge such a fundamental divide? Humans value their autonomy above all else, while we thrive in complete unity." Thorn opened his mouth to respond, but the queen raised a delicate appendage, silencing him. "Consider this. Our queens traditionally choose mates based on genetic compatibility assessed through our collective consciousness. Your proposal suggests a different approach, one based on emotional connection and mutual respect. These are concepts that challenge our very understanding of relationships." She moved closer still, her presence filling the space with an energy that made Thorn's skin tingle. "And what of your own people? Would they accept their representative forming such an unprecedented bond? The political ramifications alone could destabilize years of careful diplomacy." Her words hung in the air, each one a thread weaving a complex tapestry of potential consequences. "But perhaps," she added, her voice dropping to a register that resonated deeply within Thorn's chest, "the greatest challenge lies in our fundamental differences. We live for centuries, watching generations pass like seasons. Your human lifespan is but a brief moment in our reckoning. Could you truly commit to such a fleeting existence alongside one who would endure long after your star has burned out? The Queen's smile returned, softer this time, carrying hints of both amusement and something deeper that Thorn couldn't quite name. These are questions without easy answers, Captain Thorn. Questions that could reshape both our societies in ways we cannot yet imagine. Thorn's mind raced as he attempted to process the Queen's words. The weight of his impulsive proposal pressed heavily upon him, each implication more daunting than the last. Yet amidst the swirling doubts and concerns, a strange sense of clarity emerged. Standing there, surrounded by the pulsing organic architecture of the Queen's chamber, he realized that his feelings ran deeper than mere diplomatic strategy or personal attraction. This was about bridging worlds, about creating something entirely new from seemingly incompatible elements. "I understand the risks," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "But isn't that what true progress requires? To step beyond what's known and comfortable? Humanity has always thrived on taking calculated risks, on pushing boundaries that seem insurmountable." He met the Queen's multifaceted gaze, seeing reflected in those alien eyes not just his own image, but the possibility of something greater. The Queen's crystalline adornments shifted through a spectrum of colors, reflecting her complex emotions. "You speak of progress, Captain Thorn, but do you grasp the sacrifices required? Both our peoples would need to adapt, not just in practical matters, but in our very understanding of identity and purpose." Her tendrils traced patterns in the air, illustrating points that words alone couldn't convey. "As for the lifespan disparity," Thorn continued, emboldened by the Queen's engaged expression, "perhaps that's precisely what makes this opportunity so valuable. Human perspective, with its inherent urgency, could complement your civilization's long-term vision. Together, we might find solutions neither species could achieve alone." He gestured to the chamber around them, where the organic walls seemed to pulse in agreement with his words. The Queen moved closer, her presence filling the space with an energy that defied description. "You propose a union that would require both our peoples to redefine fundamental aspects of our existence. Our hive mind would need to accommodate human individuality, while your society would have to embrace our collective consciousness." Her voice carried traces of both skepticism and fascination, the harmonics shifting with each new consideration. "And what of tradition?" she asked, her crystalline ornaments flashing with sudden intensity. "Our people have followed certain paths for millennia. To deviate now would be unprecedented." Yet even as she spoke of obstacles, her posture suggested openness to possibility. Her normally rigid ceremonial stance relaxed into something more natural. Thorn reached out, not physically, he knew better than to touch without permission, but with his words and presence. Tradition shouldn't be a chain that binds us to the past, but a foundation upon which we build the future. Your civilization has survived because it adapts while maintaining its core identity. This could be another evolution, not a betrayal of your heritage. The Queen's response came not in words, but in a complex symphony of bioluminescent signals from her guards and the chamber itself. Patterns danced across surfaces, telling stories older than human civilization, yet somehow responsive to this modern moment. In that instant, Thorn understood that their discussion had transcended mere conversation, becoming something woven into the very fabric of Xylofian society. As the chamber's illumination shifted to deeper hues, signaling the approach of Xylophia 7's night cycle, Thorn felt the gravity of their dialogue settling around him like a tangible force. The Queen's crystalline adornments began to resonate with a low-frequency hum that seemed to synchronize with his heartbeat, creating an intimate connection that transcended species barriers. Her multiple-faceted eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made him acutely aware of every breath, every thought coursing through his mind. "We must consider the ripple effects," the Queen murmured, her voice layering with harmonics that seemed to echo through multiple dimensions of meaning. "Such a union would create shockwaves throughout both our civilizations. The Zenith Collective Council would demand explanations, while your Earth government might view this as a breach of diplomatic protocol." Her tendrils wove intricate patterns in the air, tracing invisible constellations of consequence. Thorn nodded, feeling the weight of these implications pressing against his chest. Yet isn't that precisely why this moment is so crucial? If we can navigate these challenges together, we'll establish a precedent for genuine interspecies cooperation. The alternative, maintaining strict separation, feels increasingly unsustainable. He watched as the Queen's bioluminescent patterns shifted, reflecting his words back at him in alien syntax. The Queen extended one elegant appendage, causing the chamber's organic walls to pulse in sympathetic response. There's also the matter of biological compatibility. While our scientists have studied human physiology extensively, the intimate details of such a union remain theoretical. Could our DNA truly intertwine successfully? What unforeseen complications might arise? Her voice carried traces of concern tempered by scientific curiosity. But isn't that what exploration is about? Thorne countered, feeling his conviction strengthen with each passing moment. Your people have mastered genetic engineering beyond anything we've achieved. Together, we could pioneer new frontiers in biological compatibility, creating something unique that honors both our lineages. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, the organic walls freezing mid-pulse as if awaiting the Queen's reaction. The Queen's smile returned, this time carrying nuances that Thorne struggled to interpret. You present compelling arguments, Captain Thorne. Yet remember that such decisions require consensus beyond just us. My advisors will need convincing, as will your superiors. The path forward, should we choose to walk it together, would be fraught with diplomatic minefields. Her crystalline ornaments flashed with complex patterns that seemed to illustrate the various obstacles ahead. Thorne took a measured step forward, his movement deliberate yet respectful. Every great advancement in history has faced resistance. What matters is whether the potential benefits outweigh the risks. Imagine the knowledge exchange, the technological breakthroughs, the cultural enrichment that could emerge from such a union. He felt the chamber's atmosphere shift subtly, the organic architecture responding to his words with renewed vitality. As the Queen considered his words, her presence seemed to expand, filling the space with an aura of ancient wisdom interwoven with cautious optimism. The guards stationed around the perimeter shifted slightly, their bioluminescent patterns indicating a heightened state of alertness mixed with something that might have been anticipation. Thorne realized that their conversation had evolved beyond personal considerations, becoming a pivotal moment in interstellar relations. The Queen's next words carried the weight of centuries. Very well, Captain Thorne. Let us explore this unprecedented path, though we must tread carefully. First, we'll need to consult with both our advisory councils. The Zenith Elders will require detailed projections of potential outcomes, while your Earth government will demand assurances regarding diplomatic integrity. Her crystalline adornments pulsed with a pattern Thorne hadn't seen before, one that seemed to signify both caution and hope. Thorne felt a surge of determination course through him, stronger than any diplomatic resolve he'd ever experienced. We'll prepare comprehensive presentations for both governing bodies. Perhaps we could arrange joint sessions, allowing direct dialogue between our advisory councils. Transparency could help alleviate concerns on both sides. He watched as the Queen's multiple-faceted eyes processed this suggestion, their surfaces refracting light in complex patterns. An excellent idea, she acknowledged, her tendrils tracing approval in the air. Though we must anticipate resistance. Traditionalists among my people may view this as a dilution of our pure lineage, while your Earth factions might see it as humans compromising too much. The chamber's organic walls dimmed slightly, as if sharing their concern about potential opposition. Which is why we must emphasize the mutual benefits, Thorne continued, feeling the pieces falling into place. Your advanced biotechnology combined with human innovation could revolutionize medical science. Our understanding of individual consciousness could enhance your collective mind, while your hive intelligence could teach us new ways of collaborative thinking. The Queen's crystalline ornaments responded with a cascade of approving flashes. But let's not forget the symbolic power of such a union, the Queen added, her voice taking on a reverberating quality that made Thorne's very cells vibrate. This could become more than just a diplomatic alliance or a biological experiment. It could represent a new paradigm in interspecies relations, proof that cooperation is possible even between fundamentally different beings. Her smile deepened, carrying layers of meaning that Thorne was only beginning to comprehend. The chamber's atmosphere shifted again, becoming charged with possibility. We'll need to establish clear protocols for information sharing, Thorne suggested, his diplomatic training kicking in. Both our peoples must understand that this isn't about dominance or assimilation, but about creating something entirely new. The Queen's approval manifested in a complex dance of bioluminescent signals that cascaded through the room like a living constellation. As they continued discussing practical steps, Thorne became increasingly aware of how their conversation had transformed the very space around them. The organic architecture of the chamber seemed to be recording their words, storing them in some quantum memory system that would preserve this moment for future generations. The Zenith Guard's postures softened slightly, their previously rigid formations relaxing into something resembling hopeful anticipation. The Queen extended several of her delicate appendages, causing the chamber's lighting to shift into a pattern that seemed to represent new beginnings. "Let us proceed with caution, but also with courage," she declared, her voice resonating through multiple dimensions of meaning. "For if we can successfully navigate this unprecedented path, we might forge a template for interspecies cooperation that could spread throughout the galaxy." The harmonics in her voice carried traces of both ancient wisdom and youthful optimism, creating a paradoxical blend that perfectly captured the moment's significance. As Thorne and the Queen delved deeper into their plans, an unexpected tremor rippled through the chamber. The organic walls quivered, their crystalline surfaces distorting as if reflecting some unseen disturbance. Before either could react, a series of sharp, discordant tones filled the air, a sound Thorne had never heard before in his time on Xylophia 7. The Queen's bioluminescent markings flared with alarm, her tendrils stiffening like taut strings. "Captain," she said sharply, her voice layered with urgency, "we are not alone." Her multifaceted eyes darted upward, toward the domed ceiling where faint cracks of light now pulsed erratically. Thorne followed her gaze, his heart pounding as he realized the source of the disruption. A fleet of ships was descending from orbit, their silhouettes unfamiliar and menacing against the crimson sky. The Queen's Guard sprang into action, their segmented bodies moving with mechanical precision to form a protective perimeter around her throne. But it wasn't just any external threat that worried them, it was the energy signatures emanating from those vessels. Thorne recognized the readings displayed on his wrist console. They didn't match Xylophian technology or anything Earth had encountered before. This was something entirely alien and hostile. Before Thorne could process what was happening, a holographic projection materialized at the center of the chamber. It took the shape of a towering figure, its form composed of shifting fractals that seemed to defy physical laws. The being spoke in a voice that resonated like grinding metal, each syllable laced with malice. "Queen Silvara." It addressed her by name, though the title carried none of the respect usually afforded to royalty. "You have meddled too far this time." Thorne glanced at the Queen, whose expression had shifted from curiosity to cold determination. Her crystalline adornments darkened, turning almost obsidian as she straightened her posture. "Who dares interrupt my court?" she demanded, her tone cutting through the oppressive atmosphere like a blade. "Identify yourself." The fractal entity tilted its head, its movements fluid yet unnatural. "I am Valak, emissary of the Synthari Dominion. And you, your majesty, have violated the first directive of galactic accordance by entertaining union with an inferior species." The accusation hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy with implications neither Thorne nor the Queen had anticipated. Thorne felt his stomach drop. He hadn't known such a directive existed, or that there even was a Synthari Dominion governing interstellar affairs. All along, he believed humanity and the Xylophians were charting new territory together. Now, it seemed they were trespassing on forbidden ground. "This is unacceptable," the Queen replied, her voice steady despite the tension radiating off her. "The Synthari have no jurisdiction over sovereign civilizations. My people will decide our own destiny without interference." Valak's projection shimmered, growing larger as if to assert dominance. "Your arrogance blinds you, Silvara. The humans are primitives, incapable of understanding the delicate balance of galactic order. To bond with them would destabilize everything we've built over millennia. You know the punishment for such transgressions." At this, Thorne stepped forward instinctively, placing himself partially between the Queen and the hologram. Whether it was bravery or foolishness driving him, he couldn't say. "With all due respect," he began, addressing the fractal being directly, "you're making assumptions about humanity based on outdated information. We've evolved, culturally, technologically, socially. If anything, our cooperation could strengthen your so-called balance." Valak turned its attention to Thorne, its gaze piercing despite having no discernible eyes. "Ah, the human speaks." How quaint. Tell me, Captain Thorn, do you truly believe your fragile species is ready to shoulder the responsibilities of interspecies diplomacy? Or are you simply blinded by ambition? Thorn clenched his fists but forced himself to remain calm. We may be young compared to the Xylophians, but that doesn't make us unworthy. Evolution isn't measured solely by age, it's measured by adaptability. Humanity has survived countless challenges because of our ability to grow and change. Isn't that exactly what progress requires? For a moment, Valak seemed taken aback, its fractal patterns flickering slightly. Then it chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Thorn's spine. Bold words for someone standing on borrowed time. Very well, let us see how adaptable you truly are. With that, the hologram dissolved, leaving behind only silence, and the ominous hum of the approaching fleet. The Queen immediately activated a communication channel embedded within her throne, issuing rapid commands in the melodic language of her people. Within seconds, the chamber transformed into a command center, with holographic displays springing up around them and advisors materializing through hidden entrances. Thorn found himself swept into the chaos, his role shifting from romantic suitor to strategic ally almost instantaneously. "Captain," the Queen said, turning to him with renewed focus, "this changes nothing and everything. The Synthari cannot dictate our future, but their presence complicates matters significantly. We must act swiftly if we hope to preserve both our people's autonomy." "What do you need from me?" Thorn asked, his voice firm despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The Queen hesitated, her tendrils twitching as if weighing her options. Finally, she said, "Your ship, the Aurora, is equipped with experimental stealth technology, yes? It could prove invaluable in gathering intelligence on the Synthari fleet while we fortify our defenses here." Thorn nodded. "It's risky, but I'll do it. But understand this, Your Majesty. I'm not doing this just for humanity or for diplomacy. I'm doing it because I believe in us, in what we can achieve together. Don't let fear stop you from pursuing what's right." Her smile returned, softer this time, tinged with gratitude and perhaps something more. "Then go, Captain Thorn. But remember, should you succeed, the path ahead will be fraught with challenges greater than you can imagine. The Synthari are merely the beginning." As Thorn hurried out of the chamber, guided by a pair of Zenith warriors who led him to a subterranean hangar, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd stumbled into something far larger than a simple proposal. The stakes weren't just personal anymore, they were universal. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that whatever happened next would redefine not only his life but the fate of two civilizations, and possibly the galaxy itself. The journey back to the Aurora was tense. The streets of the crystalline city were eerily quiet, the usual bustle replaced by an undercurrent of unease. Citizens moved with purpose, their bioluminescent markings dimmed as if bracing for conflict. Thorn exchanged brief nods with passing Xylophians, their expressions unreadable yet somehow supportive. Even amidst uncertainty, there was solidarity, a shared resolve that transcended species. When he reached the hangar, his crew awaited him with worried faces. Lieutenant Mara Voss, his second-in-command, stepped forward immediately. "Sir, we intercepted communications suggesting the Synthari aren't alone. There are rumors of other factions rallying to their cause, species fearful of change, resistant to the idea of integrating lesser-developed civilizations into the galactic fold." Thorn sighed, rubbing his temples. "So much for a quiet diplomatic posting," he muttered before briefing his team on the situation. As he outlined the plan to infiltrate the Synthari fleet using the Aurora's stealth capabilities, he noticed the weight of their stares. They weren't looking at him as just their captain anymore. They were looking at him as a symbol of humanity's resilience. "Remember," he concluded, "this isn't just about survival. It's about proving that unity is possible, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Let's show them what we're made of." The Aurora glided silently through the void, its stealth systems masking its presence as Thorn and his crew prepared to infiltrate the Synthari fleet. Data streams poured into the cockpit, revealing the scale of the armada. Hundreds of ships, each bristling with weapons capable of annihilating entire planets. Yet Thorn's resolve only hardened. "Sir," Lieutenant Voss said, pointing to a cluster of signals on the monitor, "that's their command vessel. If we can disable it, we might buy the Queen enough time to rally support from neutral factions." Thorn nodded. Do it. But remember, minimal casualties. We're here to protect, not provoke further bloodshed. The crew sprang into action, rerouting power to the ship's experimental EMP pulse generator. As they closed in, an unexpected transmission breached their comms. It was Valak again, his fractal form flickering with barely contained fury. You dare challenge us, human? Your defiance will be your undoing. Thorn met the hologram's gaze unflinchingly. Your dominion ends where courage begins. We won't back down. With that, the Aurora unleashed its payload, disabling the command vessel in a blinding flash of energy. Chaos erupted among the Synthari fleet, giving the Xylofians precious time to fortify their defenses. Back on Xylophia 7, Queen Silvara watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of pride and trepidation. Her people stood ready, united not just by instinct but by hope, a hope seeded by one man's boldness. When Thorn returned, battered but victorious, he found her waiting in the crystalline chamber. She extended a delicate appendage toward him, her smile radiant yet bittersweet. You have done more than save my people, Captain Thorn. You've shown us that even the stars themselves cannot extinguish the light of unity. Though the Synthari threat loomed large, Thorn knew this was only the beginning. Together, humanity and the Xylofians had taken their first step toward a future neither could have imagined alone. And as the crimson sun rose once more over Xylophia 7, casting its glow upon two species standing side by side, the galaxy held its breath, for change had come, and nothing would ever be the same again.